Hello everyone, this is City Scrapper. Thanks so much for joining me on my channel today. Today I am excited to be taking part in the Mixed Media Frenzy monthly hop. This month we are scraplifting a beautiful layout that Missy Whitten created, and I always find it so challenging and yet so inspiring to scraplift her layouts. I had her layout at the beginning of the video, but in case you didn't see it, it's divided into 4 parts. So here I'm using a scrap piece of paper, and I'm just trying to mirror the way that she had her angles on her layout. I'm going to be making a Halloween layout. I don't know why, but I was just really in the mood to make a Halloween layout. So I'm using a number of different things. The purple piece of paper is from a Die Cuts with a View stack called Dark Fairy Tale. This is a really old piece of paper, this green paper. This is really, really old. I don't know if you've been scrapbooking long enough to remember these papers, but these papers were really popular way back when. And then this orange paper is a My Mind's Eye paper. So I'm going to have 4 different sections, just like I said Missy Whitten did in her layout. I'm going to have one of them white with mixed media, and then the other 3 will be these 3 colors. So now I'm just using those templates that I made earlier, and I'm making the orange a little bit bigger than the template piece because instead of cutting it exactly to size, I'm just going to be layering the green and the purple on top. I wanted to rough up the edges a little bit, distress them, so I'm just using the edge of my scissor. And I have to be very careful on the green piece of paper because that's really a lightweight paper. So I'm being a little more careful with that than normally than I would be with a thicker paper. So now I'm attaching everything down to this other piece of scrap paper. This is a really old piece of pattern paper. I was going to get rid of these papers, and then I thought how I'm always looking for paper to back pattern papers on, and so I decided to save them, and they've come in really handy. I use them all the time. I'm going to cut away that salmon part, but I just thought it would be a good idea to anchor everything on this paper. So I'm using my scissors and I'm just trimming away that excess piece of paper. And then I was thinking that if I wanted to distress the edges a little bit more, you'd be able to see that salmon colored paper from the front, so I flipped it over, and I'm just using my scissors and my fingers to peel back a little bit of that paper. And I do that on both sides, and next time I'll have to remember to not put the paper that I'm mounting everything on up to the edge if I am planning on doing any distressing. And I of course love to distress on Halloween layouts. So now the back is looking a little bit messy, but that's okay. It will not be seen. The photo that I'm using is a photo of my younger daughter, Julia. I really like her subtle but definitely Halloween makeup. And I liked her expression. I thought it would be perfect for a Halloween layout. So I mounted it on some white paper and then on a little bit of black paper. And now I'm going in and I am distressing those papers a little bit more. Now I'm just marking with a pencil where I want to put the mixed media on the background, but I don't do that yet. First, I start with the embellishments that I'm going to have on the background. These are all stars. They're chipboard stars, and they have a nice white coating that makes it really easy to stamp on. These are from a company called Technique Tuesday. I don't think they carry them anymore. As far as I know, they don't have these anymore, but I really love them, and I've been hoarding them, and I've been trying to be good about using them lately. So I'm using a number of stamps on them. I had I believe it was a Tim Holtz spiderweb stamp, and then I have a little dot stamp and a little mesh stamp. I use them all the time. They're from Studio Calico, but I see that lots of manufacturers make similar stamps. I just think that they're a good go-to stamp for backgrounds. I also have these star stamps in my stash, and I'm really not using the star portion of them. I'm just using the stripe that's on them, but this is another set of stamps that I use quite a bit. I really like this stripe. I'm using Stays On archival ink in jet black, and I'm using the archival ink so that when I cover the stars with sprays, the ink won't run. My plan is to make the stars purple, green, and orange, and I'm starting with some Tattered Angels Glimmer Mists. this particular spray wouldn't spray, so I just poured a little on the table, and then I realized it was a little lighter than I wanted it to be, so I'm mixing it together with another color of purple. You could see that I have a few different shades of purple here. I have more of a reddish purple and more of a bluish purple. I like to use a lot of different hues when I use sprays. I feel that it creates a lot of variation and it makes it more interesting and fun to look at. You'll see that when the stars dry, you really can't see the differences in color as clearly as you could see them now. And so that's just something that I've liked to do over the years. And I'm going to do the same thing with the orange, although I find with the lighter colors, it doesn't create quite as much variation, but I will still use a couple of different shades of orange. So you see that I'm spraying the spray right on the table and then dipping the stars in to get an overall color on them. And then I'm going back in with a little bit darker color and just adding that in a couple of spots. The stars are already wet, so the color kind of mixes together. And then I'll do the same thing with the green. For the green, I'm also using a Delusion spray and a Heidi Swapp Color Shine spray. Although I don't believe I ended up using that Delusion spray after all. For this one, I just dotted the color right on there. And the Color Shine is very different from the other sprays. It's a little bit thicker. I'm not sure what the difference is in the formulation, but it definitely sits on top of the color of the stamping more than the other sprays do. So now I'm going to be adding some mixed media. And my photo is going to cover some of this, but I wanted to kind of trial out these colors. I'm again using some Tattered Angels Glimmer Mists, and this is more of a dark gray color. I wasn't sure if I wanted to use bright colors here, but I decided that I was going to let those areas of pattern paper be the bright colors, and then this area would be a little bit more neutral. And you can see here that I'm drying, but as I'm drying, I'm adding a little bit more color. I wanted to be careful not to go crazy in this area because I did want there to be some white area on the layout. So you see here that I'm bringing the colors that are in the pattern papers into this area, but they're just little splatters. They're not even my usual kind of excessive splattering. I just was very light-handed for once and just sprinkled a few drops of each color on the background. And then I'm going back in with some water droplets and lifting up some of the color just to create kind of a cool effect, especially in the larger areas of color. And now I'm going to be adding some spider webs to the background. So I'm using that same stamp that I used earlier on the stars, and I'm using some black Moxy embossing powder. And then I heat it up with the heat tool, and then I'm going to be repeating this 2 more times. And I keep placing the photo in the background on the mixed media background just to make sure that those spider webs are where I want them. After I was done setting all the embossing powder, I decided that I wanted to add a little something more to the background. So I decided that I was going to stamp some bats. I'm again using the Stays On Jet Black ink, and I added this little cluster of 3 bats on the top and then again on the bottom. And it didn't come as dark as I would like, but I do go back in with a magic marker and make those bats a little bit darker. And I know I'm dating myself by calling it a magic marker. Nobody calls it a magic marker anymore, but that's what they called them when I was a kid. Once I darkened the bats in a little bit with the marker, I decided that I wanted to add a few more splatters of color. I feel that you can't really see the color too well on the screen, but in person, those 3 different colors, the purple, the orange, and the green, are a little bit more obvious. So now that I feel that I'm done adding all of the mixed media to the background, I'm attaching down the pattern paper over the mixed media. And I'm just using ATG adhesive and attaching those 2 pieces of the background together. And then I add in a black border around the outside. I like the way the black border looks because I feel that it helps to kind of contain the whole background and kind of bring everything together, but I could not get it to photograph well. So you'll see the photo at the end does not include the black border, but it's there. I just couldn't get it to look quite right in the photo. finally, the entire background is done. Just doing a little bit more distressing of those edges. And now I'm going to attach the photo down, and I have that popped up on a little bit of adhesive foam. And I decided to put the photo at a slight angle. Something about the fact that she was kind of closing one eye, I don't know, it just made me feel that it should be on an angle. I'm not sure how those two things go together, but in my mind, they did. And I know those stars just magically appeared. Sorry about that. I had moved them around so many times that I finally decided to just turn off the camera and decide where to put them. So I placed them down, and then I attached them down with some ATG adhesive. My husband came up with a title. It's going to be Evil Eye. I haven't really heard that expression very much lately. I feel that people used to use it when somebody was just giving them a look, but I thought that it would be the perfect title for this particular photo. So I stuck all the letters down to my ruler, and a little bit of mixed success there. Some of the letters came up and some of them didn't, but in the end I decided to move the title up a little bit anyway. I decided that it was just a little bit too close to the bottom of the layout. And then I went around to all of the stars, and I decided that I was going to ink the edges of those using some black soot distress oxide, which I had also used to edge the entire background with earlier. Now I'm adding some photo corners, so I used an EK Success photo corner punch, and I punched out some photo corners. I use the same pattern papers that I use on the backgrounds, and I had to pick one color to use twice, so I picked the orange. I inked the edges of the photo corners also, and then I just used some adhesive and I'm sticking those down. And I liked a little bit of a finishing touch that those photo corners add. The bat looked a little lonely, so I wanted to add a little bat next to the larger bat that's in the upper left-hand corner. I also added a Tim Holtz eyeball to my title between the two words. There was also a star. I tried putting some white paint on it earlier, and I didn't like it, so I just inked over the edges. And now I'm adding some jewels. And I just went into my stash of jewels, and I'm putting some purple jewels on the purple stars and also on the purple photo corner, and I do the same for the orange and the same for the green. And I'm trying to find different sizes and different types of jewels. I didn't want them to all be the same, and I want to try to have larger jewels on the larger stars, otherwise the jewels just look lost, and then smaller jewels on the smaller stars, because if they're too big, then it makes the stars look really tiny. And the jewels look like they're kind of overloading the stars. And I find that I don't really use jewels as much as I used to. And I've been on a kick of using self-adhesive pearls lately, so I haven't really gotten as much use out of my jewels as I used to. But I like using them for Halloween and Christmas layouts. I added a spider to the lower right-hand corner. Later on, I end up moving that spider. I decided that I didn't want a bat in one corner at the same angle as the spider in the other corner, so I end up moving the spider to underneath the eyeball. I add some black splatters to the background, and then I was thinking this one color of gray that I added, I just felt it looked a little blotchy in some places, so I'm going in with a wet paper towel and I'm just fading out a few of those areas where there are, like I said, those kind of blotchy areas. And I don't mind if the splatters get on the stars, but that one little star was just overloaded with black paint, so I lifted it up and wiped some of the paint away. And then I was thinking that it would be a good idea to bring some of the white over to the three areas of pattern paper. So I'm just putting a very, very light sprinkle of white paint on the pattern paper areas, just around the photo, just the same way or the same places that I put the black splatters. And now I'm going back into those areas that I kind of sopped up the color, and I'm adding a little bit more of that darker color. And I did dry the background before doing that. And that is the very last touch to this layout. Thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. I really appreciate it. I hope that if you like this video, you'll give it a thumbs up. That really helps out my channel. I hope that you'll take a look in the description box. There are links to the channels of all the other scrapbookers who are following along with this challenge. I'm really looking forward to seeing how everybody interpreted Missy Whidden's beautiful layout. I hope that everybody has a great day, and I will see everybody again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.